Jeez, hold on.
Whoa, hey, that's sexy.
Whoa! Folks,
I'm a
we
cop.
are live. Welcome to your weekly Talking Crit experience. I am Eric Tenkar, one of your many hosts. The talking head next to me in their car is none other than Bad Mike, my once a week work spouse. Look at him, he's got his glasses on. He looks real serious.
This is going to be such a disaster with me holding my phone in my hand, but we're just going to do this. We're just going to do it.
And as always, the man supporting the show on his shoulders is the one and only Jim Kitchen, the Paul Lynn of Talking
He's
Crit.
our he's our at-
Fair.
he's the atlas of the show. So I am on a trip this week. I am with the family, so I can't use the condo because there's 10 people in there and five of them are kids screaming and running around. So I'm in the car. I'm banished to the car again. Once again, banished to the car to do the show. So you will see the sun slowly go down over the ocean. You will see my face slowly disappear. I have to use the indoor lighting, and every time I drop the phone, I will be disconnected and have to reconnect. So This is why this show is never up for an Emmy. It never will be. This is why the show is unprofessional, as unprofessional can be. But you know what? We like it that way. We like it that way. We don't have to worry about sponsors or monetizing or whatever. We can say whatever we like.
Could we at
Jim can,
least strive for like mediocrity? I'm just saying that.
I'm not. Jim can go on long rants. I can go on rants. Eric can indulge us on our rants, and that's because
Yeah, pretty much.
this is our thing, man. We can do whatever we like. So this is awesome. So this is just what we got. This is what we got. Waving to the wife there as she comes back from the beach. All the family.
Hey, you want to be on the show?
They're all walking by. Oh, they already walked by. Like all the little kids. Do. Oh, so anyway, yes, we're at the beach. We're at the beach. Unexpected little trip. We got invited, my wife and I. So it's really fun. It was fun to hang out with all the kids and the grandkids. So and I actually got a tan. You can't tell. No, you can't tell.
No, you
I
can't.
actually was out. I was out in the sun
Please
yesterday.
don't pull the thread up. Please don't. I beg of you, please.
I will be a good beach bum someday because I look like a bum anyway, and the beach part should be easy. I'll just let myself get all wrinkled and tanned and wear old North Texas t-shirts to the beach, and I'll be great. I'll be a good old beach bum someday.
All right, Mike, you are the butt of jokes, by the way.
I know. I'm watching right now. Yes,
Chris is he's gonna do an at-home drinking game. Take a shot every time Mike drops the phone.
Okay. If you want to be an alcoholic, that's your problem.
He's going to be hospitalized before this show is over.
I'm going to join you. I got a bottle of Gentleman's. I'll join you. One shot every time I drop the phone.
Oh my God! He'll be dropping it a lot more than Knucklebones.
We'll both be half of the bag. We're going to be half of the bag.
Mike is not on his way to ShireCon.
No ShireCon.
I will be up in the Falls Village area tomorrow afternoon.
Nice.
Here now, the plans are always in motion. So I have an Airbnb for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night for two couples. And Rach had to bow out because our puppy needs more supervision than my parents are going to be able to do because she's at that 4-month puppy stage. So Rach was like, I can't in good conscience leave this dog with your parents. For the dog's sake and your parents' sake. I'm like, fair enough. And then Rob's wife, Kellyanne, is sick. So she's not coming. And then Rob is worried that he may get sick. So I may be renting the Airbnb bachelor pad. Just saying.
Jim and I aren't saying there's a contest to be your roommate tonight.
I can't help but notice that this show has somehow managed in less than 5 minutes to turn into the prairie home companion of the OSR. Honest to God. Hey, let me tell you what's going on with Millie. And
also you need to know, people.
Oh well, You get what you pay for, and you ain't paying a lot for this. So you're getting
Yeah,
what you pay for here.
you're
Sorry,
getting
sorry,
it
kid.
gratis, folks, gratis.
But
That's
I think
hysterical.
Jim and I aren't saying there's a contest to be your unofficial
There
roommate.
isn't.
But
There isn't.
wink,
No.
wink. Jim and I
No.
would love it if you in the comments you explain why you need to be Eric's
No.
roommate.
No, Jen,
Yes,
there's
in the
not going to
comment.
be a
Yes.
drawing. This isn't.
Ex-
I believe what you're saying is in the comments, please list your single greatest attribute to land you a spot
yes.
on Dinkar Island.
And
Have you
I'll even
always
turn
wanted to live near
Dinkar
Dinkar,
Island.
but you're just
Dinkar
not
Island.
sure how to get that ahoy sailor you're looking for? Well, now's your chance. Now
No.
you can win a spot on
I'm
Dinkar Island. Do
I'm
you
gonna
like
sweeten the
foreign
pot.
cars? Are you halfway curmudgeonable? Do you
I'm gonna
like
sweeten the
keeping
pot.
towers for many days? Do you think your Revolutionary War haircut is just the thing you need?
Oh, yes.
Tinkar's Island.
No.
Clothing
I'm
optional.
Negative.
I'm sweetening the pot. I'm sweetening the pot.
Oh, jeez.
Best answer tonight that we will be I'll judge. Best answer gets a package from me. I will mail you a
Oh,
package
wow.
of D&D stuff. Judges Guild package of Judges Guild goodies to
All
the
right.
person who best says. Now it has to be good. Now if everybody has a crappy answer, there's no winner. Jim and I don't reward mediocrity. I mean,
I,
if you don't have something kick ass, it's not good.
Don brings alcohol and dice, and it's already the leading answer if you want to ask me. But
Uh,
in any case, yeah, ShireCon is Friday and Saturday. It should be a lot of fun. I think that they're looking at about 125, 140 maybe. So ShireCon's growing, and it's
not
staying very intimate. So it's very nice.
I'm sorry.
it's a
I'm
it's a great
sorry. We're
spot.
going to need Fugly to come up with an illustration that depicts Tenkar Island. And I'm envisioning something
Oh,
that's something a la Monkey Island
Oh, that's a throwback.
with the cuts are deep. It's going to be a cross of Monkey Island, X1, and Survivor with old
keep
dudes.
it clean, folks. Wink.
Wink.
Keep it clean. Yeah.
Tenkar Island. Just when you thought it was safe to go back on shore.
Right.
And by the way, Jen, thank you for reminding me. Yes,
Mhm.
membership has its privileges.
God.
Frugal DM says he needs Eric's for me because he has a hoard of game science dice I can share. That's a okay answer. Yeah, I mean, everybody wants an old game science dice to throw, so okay. I get why you say that.
But then they always roll true. I understand. Oh, wait, Chris, you have good whiskey and you have bad whiskey, and I'm afraid of the luck of the draw on this one.
Yeah, that could be a minefield right there. So
Oh,
wow,
yeah.
you're gonna have a big 2-bedroom suite all to yourself, possibly.
I've been this 2 years ago. I used this Airbnb, and it was very nice. It was very homey. It's like okay,
All right.
very cool. So it's I theoretically I could walk from the Airbnb to the bar in town, but I don't know how late they stay.
Hmm.
So in any case, so Jim, you usually have
What do we
something
have
that
going
is
on? Real wonderful, wonderful
picking
game.
at your mind.
He
So
does.
a couple of
He always
things.
has.
Number one, I mentioned a book last week and I couldn't think of the name of it, and I found it and I wanted to share this. So in my Vegapygmy rant, I was talking about the book that I had read that was really a great, interesting premise, and the name of that book is Fragment by Warren Fahey, Fahy. And so Fragment is a book where there's an island that's discovered that has all these horrific creatures that have spent millions and millions and millions of years evolving in a very, very, very secluded environment, and how insanely deadly they are. Now, the book got a sequel. I think it's called it begins with a P, but I can think of the name of it. And so I mentioned it last week, but I couldn't remember the name, and I did want to share that because it's a great read. It's a really interesting read. there's an entire genre of horror fiction about things that go wrong on an island. And there's a really, really grim one about a Boy Scout troop called, surprisingly, The Troop, where they go on an island and they have a very bad experience.
I
Um,
I read it
sorry, go
last
ahead.
year, Jim. It's really good. I have read that one. It's really good. I just read it last
Yeah,
year.
there's
Very, very good.
horror has become just this wonderful, wonderful fertile ground of horrific things. And this whole notion of there's an island and there's bad things. And of course, it's just like all the slasher movies from when we were kids, where they're too dumb to leave. They're too, wrapped up in trying to drink and have sex to notice that something's bumping them off one by one, and so on. But Fragment was the name of the book that I was trying to think of last week. So I did have something I wanted to talk about tonight. It's a little early, but what the hell? So we often talk, like a couple of weeks ago, we got into a discussion about Gygax and Arneson. And I said, whatever you do, don't deify these people. I I think that when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons and it comes to role-playing games, there are big names. And they are the Gygaxes and Arnesons and so on and so forth. But one of the things that we have always talked about on this show and so on is there's what I would like to call the middle tier. Right now, I don't mean like the lowest tier where they say they're game designers, but they still work in the food services industry. But the middle tier are the people that actually got shit done. And these are the people that are really and truly the unsung heroes of the role-playing game industry. And so when I say that, the people that come to my mind are people like Mike Carr and Steve Winter and Alan Hammock. And these are people that yes, they are recognized, and truthfully, their recognition was slower in coming, but I've been very lucky over the last, I'll say 15 years, I've been very, very fortunate to get to know, particularly in the last 10, a lot of these people. I was one of those people that thought B1 was the best basic module. I know sometimes this gets me in fights with people who love B2, and I love B2 as well, but my Holmes box set had B1 in it. I have to say that I was not as in depth with understanding who Steve Winter was and what his role was at TSR and so on and so forth. Alan Hammock was a name I recognize, but it's since I've begun coming to GaryCon and since I began coming to North Texas that I'm very, very, very privileged to say that I've gotten to know these people better. Mike Carr still is crawling around tables for Fight in the Skies games, and he's older than Methuselah at this point. If you go to Gen Con, you're going to see him crawling around on a table. If you go to GaryCon, you're going to see him crawling around on a table because that's who Mike Carr is. And literally, he's going to die crawling around on a table. And they'll take him out on the table with the Fight in the Sky map, and that'll be it. But I got a note from Alan that I wanted to share. I really genuinely, I call Alan a friend, and I don't say that very lightly because I try not to ever impress upon these folks. I think I would consider Steve Winter a friend of mine, but Alan and I are good, close friends. And he sent me a note and he says, and this is great. He goes, I enjoy most of your Talking Crit shows, but a couple of weeks ago, you made a point that I also make. If you remember, Dungeons and Dragons came from an origin in wargaming, where there is a true neutral referee that was common, and it makes understanding the original Dungeons and Dragons, as well as the OSR principles, easier. We were very used to hyping up a set of rules, having friends playtest them, and then roast us mercilessly on our mistakes. They would toss out ideas for additions or corrections, and we'd try those and keep the ones that worked the best. And because there was no money involved to speak of, if we did ever mimeograph or Xerox a final product to distribute to other gamers at conventions, it gave credit to everybody who had contributed to the project. And Alan's Alan's point in saying that to me, he sent me this very nice note about it today. Um, I think that is a great encapsulation of what is the heart of the origins of our hobby and what is the heart of the OSR movement. Yes, we have people that are monetizing things by publishing books and collecting rules and tinkering under the hood. And yes, there's ownership and sales and rights and so on and so forth. But in the end, the roots of the hobby are about hobbyists sharing great ideas with one another in whatever form through websites. There's no great email lists anymore. There used to be mailing lists in the 90s and the early 2000s, and those have all gone the way of the dodo. But in the end, the single greatest thing you can do as a person playing role-playing games is you can go to a convention, you can go play at somebody's house when you're on vacation. You know, hey, I'm going to be near you, and your cousin says, hey, we got a D&D game on Friday night. Do you want to play? Sure, that'd be great. I'll be a drop-in NPC. Fantastic. And somebody does a mechanic or something that you've never thought of. And that's how good ideas disseminate. And it was the same way when we were all playing D&D 40 odd years ago, is that, you know, you'd go somewhere or you'd play in a strange group that wasn't yours. I mean, I really genuinely am such a rule follower that the first time I played, I rolled up a character with people that rolled 4 dice and dropped the lowest one for stats. I was simply, what is this? What is this foreign language that you speak? And that's okay. Sorry, I was going to sneeze. So I think Alan's point to the sort of collectivist of how these things spread and are disseminated and so forth. We had 2 people at the start of the hobby who really managed to do some great things and whose 2 names have been linked to it ever since. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that we sort of concluded on was that, yes, Dave Arneson contributed a number of things, but Gary's the guy that managed to get it in print. Gary's the guy that managed to get it published. And we talked about some of the Arneson stories and so on. I think that great people with great minds can have simultaneous the same idea in opposite places of the world, just because that's the way the world works. But I really I can't thank Alan enough for that little note, because it does really go back to what we were talking about, which is the OSR, the way the OSR began, and the sort of movement of the OSR was really about people. I want to go back to what I used to do. What did I used to do? What did you used to do? Hey, have you ever tried this? No, I haven't. Oh, you ought to try that. And enough of this bubbles and incorporates, and, you know, the ethery spirits from the great beyond come together and congeal and form something. And that's great. It's wonderful. It's part of what this hobby really offers. And I think it was just cool. So, Alan, thank you for your note. Very well received. And I think, you know, we always say this, but if you have a chance to spend time with the guys in the middle tier, right now, Dave and Gary are both gone. However, there are some people who are experts at patting themselves on the back in the role that they played in the hobby, and that's great, and more power to them. But in the end, it's your editors, it's your guys that hit the deadlines, it's your guys that can turn in the word count on time and deliver. I have been on record. I'm going to get lynched for this, I'm sure. But there's a TSR. There's an artist who did a lot of work for TSR whose style is not my favorite. I won't name names, but the reason he appears in so much, all of his artwork appears in so many TSR modules, is that he would always stick the landing. We need this and this and this by this date at this price. Not a problem. And he was that guy. And while I don't care for his art style, the thing that I absolutely am wholeheartedly impressed by, and who I've heard nothing but great things from what I would call the middle tier, are his work ethic and his ability to deliver things on time. And no, he wasn't one of the 4 horsemen.
And so, Jim, there's something to be said for reliability, right?
There is. There really flipping is. And I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. Not all art is for everyone. Not all writing is for someone. But the people like Steve Winter, the people like Alan Hammock, the people like Mike Carr, the reason you have so many great products that you remember so fondly is because despite Gary and the Blooms, they still managed to land some amazing people like Tim Kask and Kim Mohan and all these other folks that managed to keep the engine running and keep it percolating along and putting out great products. And for that, hats off, salute.
Well, no, that's good to say. And I've talked to Alan. I also consider Alan a friend. I tell you what, what's great about Alan is he is one of those people that is absolutely that he knows his place in the world and his place in the hobby,
Yes.
and he doesn't overblow it. He doesn't undersell it either, though. I mean, he was there and he did stuff, but he does not like some of the people that we all know that will overinflate their role in the hobby to the point where
Do you know who I am?
It would have never got. I would have never got off the ground. But I'm going to add two more names to your list, Jim, that I've been told about. One Alan told me about is Lawrence Schick. Lawrence Schick,
Yes.
while he wrote White Plum Mountain, he did. Alan said he told me one time. He said, "You do not know how much Lawrence did behind the scenes." He said there was a lot of things we got turned in that basically Lawrence and I should have got co-writing credit on because they did that much work to make it look good and make it work. And another one's Kevin Hendricks. Kevin Hendricks is another edit. You see his name editing a lot of stuff. But those guys, man, behind the scenes, because none of these writers they didn't really know what they were doing. I mean, this is a new hobby. We can't, couldn't look back on 40, 50 years of D&D modules. They were just creating stuff. I mean, there's a reason White Plume Mountain's the first Funhouse dungeon because nobody had ever done a Funhouse dungeon, and they made up a name for it. They called it a Funhouse dungeon. Doesn't make any sense. You run around, solve puzzles, and do crazy stuff. And so the editors had to come in there a lot of times and say, you know what, this is too humorous, or this is not humorous enough, or this doesn't work, or you don't have the Judges Guild problem where you have a red dragon in one room and 6 orcs in the next room and then 3 to place your piece. They're like, no, we can't do that. We have to be, this dungeon has to be functional. And the editors were the unsung heroes behind the scenes. They would say, look, we need to put this together to make sense. And they worked a lot of long hours, and they didn't get paid very much. And they did a lot. So you're absolutely right. The people who did the editing deserve a lot of credit that they don't necessarily get because they aren't some of the bigger names in the hobby. And honestly, a lot of those guys, they were only there for a few years, like 78 through 84 or 79 through 84. They were only there for 4 or 5 years, but that was the heyday of the TSR D&D. That was when they were making, the one year when they had more sales than a Monopoly, and the years that they, were making millions of dollars, and everybody was spending like, it was a party on the Titanic, and they're throwing money in the air and drinking out of slippers. I mean, that was the years these guys were there when they were doing everything, and then of course all the layoffs started coming, and a lot of those guys got cut, and they went on, if they went on to other careers. Sometimes they went into careers in video games. Alan had a long career in the actual real world where he did a lot of stuff, and a lot of those guys did,
Yes, and I think that's something too, right? Your primary tier, whatever you want to call it, the top tier stayed in the RPG industry because of who they were, right? They were somebody. But the middle tier possessed a skill set that was applicable to just about any industry, and they could do things and they could nail it. And this is why Mike Carr went on to a long career in finance. This is why Alan Hammock went where he did. Eric is apparently putting an entire wall of text in the chat. You're all very excited about this because
somebody was talking about.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Good Lord. So apparently Eric has decided to copy the Gutenberg Bible into the chat. So hold on there, Eric.
No, that's okay.
So the middle tier, these folks, they had a skill set and discipline, and when they got laid off, they were like, yeah, okay, I'm moving on. And in some ways, that's what really sort of defines the middle tier, because they went on
I've
and they
always
were
wanted to-
successful in other things.
Where would I go?
They had a reasonable life. They did those things. And yes, their time at TSR was brief, but it didn't necessarily define them. Now, Steve Winter stayed in the RPG industry and is very well loved in the RPG industry. And that's not saying, but I still think of Steve in the middle tier because where oftentimes it's a case of, do you know who I am? Steve's one of those guys that's like, here, my work speaks for itself, and I don't have to break my arm patting myself on the back. And the middle tier are not the people who are going to say things like, do you know who I am? I could destroy you. Those are not those people, because they're comfortable with who they are, and they don't have to make threats they can't carry out.
Tons of credit. I mean,
Yes. And Mike, it looks like we're going to be dropping the call. So if you're playing the Mike Mandelato dropped call drinking game, get ready. It's going to be a chug.
Oh, hold on a second. Where's my bottle? Damn it!
Oh God, he's frozen. And look at him. He's pensive. He's very pensive, our Mike. If only he had been doing this when he came to a halt.
All right.
Oh God, Eric's going straight to the bottle. Yeesh. Anyway, so in the chat right now, there's a raging discussion about the next. There we go. So Mike is back. If you're playing at home,
well, there's another one. There's guys like that, but I do remember somebody one time tell. Oh dear.
Okay, that's going to count as one.
Oh
I can't
no.
afford to have 2 minutes.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
You are frozen.
Yeah, he's cooked. So anyway.
Well, let me know when I'm back. Let me know when I'm back. Am I back?
You're sort of coming and going.
Yeah. You go to the light, Mike. Oh no, stay away from the light. Stay away from the light. Sorry, wrong movie.
All right.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Anyway,
I wanted to say one thing real quick. I was while you guys were mocking me. I was told candidly, person who worked for TSR. I was told candidly one time by a person who worked for TSR back in the heyday.
You keep freezing. Mike was told something by somebody at some point about somebody at TSR.
Hold that thought.
So let's talk about Stranger Things. If you've been living under a rock and you were unaware, Stranger Things the new and final season of Stranger Things is coming out in October. And so everybody who is anybody that has licensed Stranger Things as a property to make merchandise and sell lots of things.
Yep.
All of it is starting to roll into department stores and Hot Topic and everywhere else. And because everybody loved Eddie, Jesus, we're going to get a ton of Hellfire Club stuff. So just brace yourself. But the new season kicks off at some point. I don't know what the exact date is, and I don't care. But just as with the last season, WotC's doing a starter, or was it 2 seasons ago? They did a starter box set for Stranger Things, and they're doing one this time.
But they're not calling it a starter set.
Well, I wouldn't view it as a starter set. Like I think, first of all, throw that notion right out the window. But it is a starter set. It's a basic Dungeons and Dragons set, but it's skinned because, of course, what they've done is they've flayed Stranger Things, and they've taken the skin suit and they've put it on a box set, and it's being sold. The last one, I think I bought 5 copies at 60 or 75% off from my Target when it came. So there you go. He's got it up on the screen. Welcome to the Hellfire Club adventure game. Sure. Everything's going to be paper. I would say that if this goes the way the last one would, you can expect it to be on a discount somewhere around Black Friday, and you'll be able probably to pick it up for half price. Or
yeah, they're asking $60 for it right now.
Yeah, I wasn't in a hurry to buy the last one, and the last time I bought, and so the last one had a little plastic figure of the Demigorgon, and
Oh yeah.
that was the reason everybody was all over that. So, I don't know. I knew this was coming. I mean, just brace yourself. The T-shirts, the posters, the tchotchkes, the bottle openers, all of this stuff is going to start rolling into Target and Walmart and everywhere else, because this is the grand finale of the series that brought Dungeons and Dragons back in a big way. And so there isn't a licensed partner that isn't going to be milking this cow for everything that it's worth.
Oh my God, you weren't kidding. And I'll be honest with you, I enjoyed Stranger Things the first season, the first couple. The last season, I just wanted the season to end.
I think the problem is that it went to. I think that the way the last season ended. Don't get me wrong, there were some genuinely creepy moments, but the problem is that the series was shot and in the can, and they didn't understand. If they had really understood how popular Eddie was going to be, they wouldn't have killed Eddie off.
Right.
And they killed Eddie, which means that, all these Hellfire Club shirts and, don't get me wrong, I'm glad to see the preponderance of cute goth girls wearing Hellfire Club shirts that populated the internet for a while. But Eddie's dead. And unless they have the Hellfire Club continuing in the new season, I don't know. The other is that where Stranger Things really worked as, I would say, a creepy. There were individuals or one monster at the root of this, and it was much more personal. The first series, the second series, and so on. And then at the end of the last series, you've got this gigantic, horrible scar in the earth with hell coming forward. I mean, all of a sudden now you've taken it to a scale where frankly the Army, the National Guard, the Air Force, the Marines, and what was it when we were up in the air, Junior Birdmen? I mean, everybody's going to be involved trying to stop this at this point. My God, he's back. Brace yourself. Get the drinks ready, folks.
Whoa.
Oh, there he is. There we
Have my shot. So I've been listening to everything you said, Jim. Though I was going to say that the triple whammy, maybe four whammy that got D&D the consciousness it did. It was Stranger Things.
Yep.
Obviously. Big Bang Theory. They had the Gary Con episode, Big Bang Theory, and then Critical Role. Are all so. I named three things beyond the hobby.
Yes. I think so, but let's not let's also not dismiss the strength of 5th edition, because I've said this before. I'll say it again, and Mike is frozen once again, so please take a drink.
Now you could put.
Yeah, he's done. So 5th edition was the most play tested. It was the most thoroughly researched version of Dungeons and Dragons that we've seen in our lifetimes so far. And that's why it was a good product, but it sure as hell didn't hurt when the number one show on cable / streaming / whatever you want to call it centered around a bunch of kids in the 80s playing D&D the way all of us used to. I've said before that the start of Poltergeist, I couldn't give a shit about the rest of the movie. It was the fact that at the start of the movie, you have a bunch of kids around a kitchen table playing D&D, and they had miniatures and the whole 9 yards, and it gave all of us a chance to look at that movie and go, holy shit, those are my friends. And Stranger Things took that one little moment and stretched it out into an entire show.
Like, you might want to try killing your camera. May save your bandwidth for you to
it doesn't seem to be working well.
I can only my liver can only handle so many shots.
No kidding. We're doomed. Oh, it's now a close up of Mike's face. So I think that's really it. I'm interested to see how well it does. I'm sure it'll. I mean, I'm sure the show will go gangbusters and so on and so forth. But I haven't heard if they're doing the first half of the season and then the second half later, like they did with Wednesday, which I thought was dumb. Or if they're going to release it all at once, and I don't know. Have you heard anything, Eric?
I haven't heard, and I don't even know when the release date is. I'm assuming it's going to be around Halloween.
Oh, that would probably be true.
Yeah, but I don't know.
September, October, November.
It's coming out in November, Thanksgiving weekend, and then it'll be Volume 1 is 4 episodes released on November 26th. Volume 2 will be released on Christmas Day, 3 episodes, and the final episode, the very last, will air on New Year's Eve.
So it's binge, and then
4, 3, and then the final episode. And that's clever. I think it's a great way to try to get participation. So
their ratings should be boffo if they're going to do the holiday season, which it appears they are.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll go well. I don't know. I think and look at what Stranger Things did for all these people, right? All the kids have gone on to bigger and better, some more than the others. The sheriff, my God, he's now a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and
he's Russian, what Red Star or something.
Yes. Yeah, if you were somebody that read Iron Man as a kid, right? All the low end Soviet guys like Titanium Man and the Red Dynamo, and you're used to these guys, right? So I was always really regretful that Iron Man 2, which riffed a lot of Demon in the Bottle, didn't actually have the great, after the whole arc where Tony Stark realizes he's an alcoholic and he realizes that somebody took over his armor, but he was drunk and he can't find his way out of it or whatever. But my favorite is when he finally gets his shit together. The Titanium Man shows up in New York City and starts causing problems. And he shows up and absolutely just puts him out, and at one point rips the guy's helmet off and just punches him and knocks him out. And he does it, of all places, I think it was on the ice rink at Rockefeller Center.
Nice.
And the crowd that has gathered to watch the fight roll out, Iron Man is just sort of like, it's over. And the guy's slumped out unconscious, and then the crowd breaks out into applause. And if you've been reading Iron Man through the entire saga of Demon in a Bottle, it's such a great redemption arc. It's such a great moment. You're like, okay.
Did they shout USA too, or am I remembering it wrong?
I can't remember that. That's a great point. But and then the John Romita Jr.
America beats the Rush.
Yeah, hold on a second. The dog is hounding me. 1 minute, I'll be right back.
No problem.
I was gonna say I think the biggest breakout star for Stranger Things was Millie Bobby Brown, because she's in everything now. I mean,
oh God, yeah.
And she's legal now, so I can say this. She's absolutely gorgeous, and she's a good actress. She is not bad at all, and she's in a ton of stuff now. And I'm not saying she's ever won an Academy Award or anything, but she is an absolutely reliable female star for action movies or suspense stuff or thriller stuff. I mean, I enjoy. I mean, she did the Sherlock Holmes' daughter stuff, which is awesome. Enola Holmes, or the sister. I'm sorry. She was in Enola Holmes, which she did a good job at. She's done a bunch of stuff. And she's from the girl with her head shaved who just spoke one-word sentences for the whole first season. She's come a long way, and I think she was a huge breakout star for that show.
Like the sleeper star, because nobody really expected it when
she's a nobody. Yeah, she was absolutely a nobody. And then of course the kids have all done something, but then it was kind of the comeback for what's her name, the mom, what's her Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder had kind of been persona non grata in Hollywood because she was a nutcase for years, and that was her big comeback show. She did that, and then all of a sudden she was hot property again. And she did a great job. I thought she did a great job too. So, yeah, that show kind of brought the careers of it made the careers of a lot of guys, and it brought back the careers of some of the older guys that are there in that show. So, Michael.
Definitely.
Michael Modine was the bad guy. He did a great job. One season he was in there. He was the scientist,
Well,
the evil scientist one year, and he job. So yeah, they've done a really good. The brothers did a really good job
with the earlier seasons more so than the later ones, but I think that's because it was still a new show and it hadn't found its own tropes. By the later season, it's like, oh, look, the sheriff's in the Russian prison. Oh, God, help me. No. So, yeah. I'm not, listen, I'm not giving spoiler alerts. If you haven't watched it yet,
no, it's too late.
Shame
No,
on
no
you.
spoil. Yep. The one great scene in the Russian prison though is, and those that know this is a great piece of trivia. The sheriff has to fight the Demogorgon in the prison, and he picks a sword up off the ground. And you know the lineage of that sword, right? You've heard this. That was the same prop used in Conan the Barbarian.
Really?
Yep, that sword is Conan the Barbarian sword from Conan the Barbarian. That's a great twist of trivia. And that the brothers thank the brothers for that. They found that prop, which was still there, and they said, "Look, wouldn't it be cool if one of the sword he grabbed was Conan's sword?" So that is an awesome.
That's cool, and that's kind of a respect to the genre.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Isn't that why this show succeeded so much, though, Eric? Because and Jim, because it succeeded because it didn't make fun of the genre. It was very respectful of the sci-fi genre, of the fantasy genre. It wasn't making fun of the kids or making fun of the stuff they did or making fun of. It was basically it was winking along with you. Hey, this is stuff. This is an '80s show. We're gonna '80s up this shit so much. It's gonna be the most '80s thing you've ever seen, and it was. It was the most '80s show that is probably ever shown on TV. I mean, I'm watching that show with my wife. We're like, yep, we remember that. We remember that. Yep. Well, the whole mall season. Oh, yep, we remember malls. Oh, we remember all that stuff. And so it was very respectful of the genre. That's why it's been one of the reasons it's been so successful. That they just did such a good job with that series.
You're muted, Jim.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Jim. If you've been trying to talk, you're muted. He muted himself.
I'm sorry. Great things shouldn't last forever. Great things shouldn't last.
Absolutely.
Forever.
No. Yeah, you should have an ending,
right?
and stick the landing too. Have a good ending. That's one of the problems with Game of Thrones. They did not stick the landing. There's a lot of, and we won't even go into the reasons why they effed it up, but they did. And so you have all these. You have 7 great seasons of a show, then the 8th season just stinks. But I think Stranger Things. I trust these guys. I think they're going to stick the landing. They're too good. They're too good at what they do. They're too good at their job.
I'd agree with that. I'd wholeheartedly agree with that. And that's what we all want, right? We don't want them to Game of Thrones it. We want them we've invested a lot of time to care about these characters, so give us a satisfying ending for everybody.
Yes, please.
And the other is the kids started so young, they have to age out.
Right.
They have to age out. The show has to come to some kind of a conclusion. So
for a little trivia, the first season, so they had the first season. They didn't know if they were ever going to get a second season. They had planned.
You're breaking up, Mike.
The kids are.
Eric, drinking should be your clue.
And on that note.
How about those Rangers, folks?
No, the Texas Rangers. We're not talking the New York Rangers. I know. This is why
Mike,
you
it's
get.
not working.
Wow, Mike, this is flashback. All right, I'm gonna have to cut you. Hold on.
This is the episode that loses
Oh
us
my
the
God,
inning.
Mike.
This is the episode that loses us the inning. We were in contention right up until then, and then it all just went away.
Nope,
It
nope,
sounds like
Mike.
he's having a grand mal seizure and
The show
a
really
stroke
quick.
at the same time.
We love you, Mike, but I can't do it, man.
It hurts me. It just hurts me. Oh, so let's see. What are some other things that are going? Yeah, Bad Mike has a bad
He's a bad Mike. Yes.
Yes, that's right. So I don't know. I think you could do a revisit of Stranger Things. Fugly mentions, they could do a revisit in 10 years or whatever, and so on and so forth. I mean, come on. Don't we want to see the Hawkins High School reunion, the 10-year reunion? My God, that would be just too good for
That
words.
would be very interesting.
That would be good, because Stranger Things version of the 90s, I love that too much for words. Let's see, what are some other interesting things. I'm resurrecting my top secret campaign, except instead of using the top secret rules, I'm going to actually be using Call of Cthulhu. So I've been converting all the players' characters over to Call of Cthulhu. So that should make it a little easier. We're talking about television, and I'll just throw out that the TV show that I really have grown to enjoy. A lot of times you'll see that TV shows begin in other countries and then they're brought over here. And that was the way it was in the 70s and 80s. A lot of shows like Three's Company and so on.
All in the Family, yeah.
Yes, they started off in England and then they came this way. But there have been some very notable exceptions. Now, some of them have not worked. If you ever have a chance to see any of the episodes of that 70s show that got done in England, it's well worth your time to watch, because there's one season of that 70s show that's set in England and it's almost word for word scripts. It's pretty good.
Really?
Yes, but the show that premiered last year that turned out to be a good little show that I really enjoyed is the show High Potential, where you have the woman who has a 160 IQ who is helping the police department. And this is actually based on a French television show that did really, really well. And one of the great things that they've kept are all these little idiosyncrasies about the character and so on and so forth. But if you haven't watched High Potential, it's a novel, clever show. It doesn't take itself ridiculously seriously, so that's kind of enjoyable. And I'm always there's brief little asides in every episode. There's some one or two little 3 or 4 second moments that just make you laugh out loud, because the producer has just decided to roll the dice and have these strange moments. And I've really grown to enjoy that. I like that a lot.
Which streaming service is it on?
So I think it's an ABC show. So I think if you poke around, whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it might be on Hulu, Disney, whatever that amorphous blob of shows is. I had 2 interesting moments this week, collectibles wise. Number one is that I bought something off of eBay last week, and for whatever reason they didn't ship it. They didn't ship it in a timely manner. So even though they created a tracking number on Tuesday, it didn't arrive until today. Thanks a bunch. But it showed up, and I haven't had a chance to open the bike. But look, it's the spirit of Connections Past once again haunting us. Tell us more, Spirit.
Exactly.
Do not invest in Bitcoin.
Thank you. Duly noted. We'll also buy low and sell high. But the other amusing thing is that I have decided to empty out the boxes of old T-shirts and start getting rid of them and so on and so forth. And I found something I can't believe I had forgotten it. But in 1994 or 5, I went to the Gamma Trade Show in New Orleans, and so I want to say it was 94. And I hit the TSR booth at Gamma, and Jim Adkis, the sales manager, nicest guy, gave me a full set of the Planescape pins, which I have, all the fact.
Okay, cool.
But I had forgotten that he had also given me a Lady of Pain T-shirt that I've never worn. And I found it in the bottom of the box of T-shirts today, and I just about fell over. I was like, oh, crap, I forgot I had that. So, soon to be on eBay.
Oh,
bid
that'll
often,
bring.
bid frequently, bid high. It could be yours.
There you go.
Yes. So, but it's a large, and I couldn't fit in a large if I had to at this point. Yes. Gotham 39. You lost me at Batman investigation scenario, but it's a good try, Jonathan. Well done. My top secret game is it's set in the 70s. The party blundered their way through Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and they wound up on an island with a submarine pin, and the Spectre-like organization has now been revealed, and that's where the adventure sort of concluded. And we're going to pick it up. We're going to pick it up at a point slightly in the future of where things left off, and there's going to be more shenanigans for the party. So we'll see how it all goes. Now, I don't know if anybody was watching the other night, but there was a retro special on Disney and Imagineering that included a pile of clips from Walt Disney Presents in the 60s. And one of the most notable things I saw was in an effort to get details right, a la Heaven Help Us, It's a Small World, and so on, they had a brief shot of the Imagineers library. Now I can't imagine what Imagineering's library looks like now, but what was so striking was in 1960 or 62, when they were shooting this, the Walt Disney Imagineer library included a complete and full run of National Geographic. And that's what they were using to cross-reference and make sure that if they were borrowing something culturally from somewhere, they would go and go into National Geographic to make sure that they were getting the local clothing right, the decorations right, the style of architecture, and so on. It was very, very interesting to me, right? This was just a little throwaway, but I just latched onto that, I've often said a lot of really good RPG adventures could start in some of the National Geographics from before World War II, because they're very, very different. After World War II, the world got a lot smaller, and cultures, the development of culture, Western culture, just came creeping in everywhere. But if you look at early National Geographics, particularly from the 1910s, 1920s, and 30s, there's just a wealth of really, really great information out there, and you can do a lot of interesting historical scenarios. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I have almost full set of Geographics from the 20s. I got real cheap at a half-price books many years ago. I like to use them at the table and just hand them out to players for background. Then get in the mood, because the black and white pictures are amazing.
Yes,
it's incredible.
Yes, and National Geographic at one point put out a CD-ROM collection, but they were digitized at a very, very, very low bit rate. They're really crappy. And I wish there were higher res scans, frankly. But
you can still find National Geographic. You'd be surprised how cheap you can find 100-year-old National Geographics. They're really not super expensive. I got my whole, I probably got about 30 or 40 of them for $5 each at a half price. And if you look around online, I bet you can find a set of them. But Jim's right; they're invaluable, and they look, like I said, you throw them on the table, and the players flip through them, and immediately you're just like, wow, I'm in the 1920s. This is awesome.
Yes. And the other is ads, right? The advertising in them is just as evocative, right? And it's one of those things that I can't say enough good things about. I don't know. I've also this week, the last couple of weeks, I've been on a, like, in the backs of my lizard brain, Doc Savage. I've had an inkling to open up my Doc Savage collection and reread a bunch of the favorites and so on. I'm one of those people that really thinks the best Doc Savage novels were probably the first 5 or 6 years, from 33 to 38, 39, somewhere in there. World War II sort of.
It became a Cold War spy thing after that.
Yeah,
yeah.
You want them before
World War II, because after that, it became Cold War spy novels, and you want the fantasy crazy villains that could stop time or freeze people or just do weird ass shit. That's the Doc Savages you want, definitely.
Yeah, and really, Lester Dent, who created Doc Savage, Lester Dent had this. He had scoped out, and William Murray's done a great job of being the sort of Doc Savage historian. He did a great job of really laying out that Lester Dent had about two dozen amazing ideas for stories, and that's why particularly the first couple of years, the first 2 or 3 years of Doc Savage, each one each one is a banger, and it leads right into another banger. And the first year in particular, Doc and his companions are just sort of on a whirlwind tour where, they end up in Egypt, and then they end up in the Sargasso Sea, and so on and so forth. But the other is that it does this great job. Dent did this great job when Doc runs into a culture. Doc runs into natives, when Doc runs into some uncharted part of the world with some sort of culture there. Dent did a great job of coming up with something that didn't seem, it wasn't pedestrian. It wasn't, it wasn't shot on the Universal Studios backlot and you're like, hey, I remember that. That's the old zoo in Los Angeles they closed and they used in that episode of Wonder Woman, right? There's none of that stuff. But Dent's ideas, he really did a great job of sort of collating. Like one of the things that I really enjoy is in The Polar Treasure. There's a race to find an ocean liner that has stuck somewhere in the Arctic, but nobody knows where. No satellites. And there's one clue, which is a blind man who has a map leading to it tattooed on his back, and they're trying to get there. And then there's another one, the Sargasso Ogre, where we all know the Sargasso Sea, as it's always been written, doesn't exist. But of course, it's set in that kind of setting, and ships have been pulled into it for hundreds of years, and there are, of course, people living on these ships who have been marrying and having generation after generation, and there's no hope of leaving. And it's really, again, it's an interesting culture, because all these ships that have drifted together in the Atlantic and the Sargasso Sea, and they've been stuck there for generation after generation and so on. But Dent did a great job of coming up with what we would now call adventure hooks, really, really interesting adventure hooks. And sometimes they're sort of pedestrian, but sometimes they're really spot on. They're really, really spot on.
I really like his science villain, Mola, or the invisible guy. I mean, because he'll have you won't know how the villains are doing it. At the end, Doc reveals it's always this kick-ass super science. That's how they can turn invisible, or that's how they can, touch you and poison you or electrocute you. And then he always turns it on the villains at the end. He always F's them up. I always like the science villains ones. Those are great.
Yes. And it was always this theoretical science stuff. Like where will this come from? One of the
Right.
great things I remember is there was the gizmo that turned people invisible, and the bad guys got trapped in a tunnel that flooded. And he did this great little throwaway line that after they pumped the water out, the bodies were visible because by then they resembled jellyfish.
Gross.
And I thought, this is such a great and clever, like, dents right in the novel, and he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he's just like, and you just know in the back of his head he's got this jellyfish line he's going to end the novel with, and you're just like, oh, this is
there's a great villain, John Sunlight, who's probably his big super villain. He breaks into Doc's Arctic fortress and steals all this shit that he's been accumulating all the years, and Doc's like, holy F. This stuff cannot get into other people's hands. And John Sunlight has them all. He has death rays. He has electrical shooting, zappers. I mean, he steals all of Doc's stuff. That's a great 2-part adventure. It's awesome.
Well, and John Sunlight's the only Doc Savage villain to appear in 2 books, because he gets away at the end. They think he's dead at the end of the first one, and then he reappears later. And not only does he break into the Fortress of Solitude and steals things. No, he steals the weapons that Doc has taken and hidden away because they're too dangerous to exist in current time.
The death ray. It's too. He doesn't want anybody to have it, so he just
That's
unlocking this away. It's a death ray, and it's just like,
and the shit moment comes when John Sunlight is seeking revenge on the former Russian prosecutor, who's now an ambassador or something in the U.S. in New York City. And Sunlight shows up with one of these gizmos, and it's such a great weapon. It literally stops the electrons in the atoms of the victim, and they turn into like ash, and they just evaporate. And the best moment in the book, because you're sort of flying along and so on and so forth, but it's when Doc hears about how the victim died. And Doc Savage has an oh shit moment where he realizes what the weapon was and where the weapon had to have come from. And that's when all bets are off. That the Fortress of Solitude has been breached. The worst person imaginable has access to all of it. And I, dimly recall that like John Sunlight stole 50 odd of these weapons, and only half of them are recovered by the end of the book. The other half are back out there somewhere. And when he shows up in the Devil Genghis, again, oh crap, right? Another really, really tough fight. But Gibson's shadow novels, they're equally interesting and evocative. I think it's important to realize that a lot of early role-playing adventures are very much shaped by the stuff that came from the 30s, because all of that stuff a lot of it got reprinted starting in the 60s. And so you had guys who went on to be part of the industry who were cutting teeth on this when they were in their late teens, early 20s. Same for all the John Carter and Burroughs books, or all the Burroughs books with Venus and Mars and so on and so forth. But that pulp wave coming out in paperback in the 60s helped fuel a lot of what we know of RPGs in the 70s and in the 80s.
Yes, very, very true. And, that it wasn't just Doc. Obviously, there was the Shadow, the Avenger, the Spider. I mean, there was a whole slew of these guys. And I mentioned in the comments, we played Zeb Cook's Crime Fighters or Crime Busters game that was in Dragon Magazine for a year. We played it one summer, and I just absolutely ripped off plots from Doc Savage one after another because they were that good. The plots were that awesome, so I just ripped them off.
So there's so much great material out there. There's never enough time to read it all. I got into Doc Savage when I was in like 4th or 5th grade, and I just started devouring all of them. And I still have all of the Doc Savage paperbacks that I got as a kid. My dad and stepmom were in Malaysia, and they bought a box full in Kuala Lumpur because the Bantam reprints, they sold them in every bookshop sold them in every magazine shop of every airport in North America, and piles of them would wind up overseas. And so my dad was buying them for like a nickel and a dime a piece, and a bunch of the ones that I had all came from him. Just great stuff. All those Bantam reprints, and the Shadow too. The Shadow. God, Gibson just knocked novel after novel after novel out with crazy great ideas. The idea that somebody who was a paraplegic and an iron lung was acting as the operator for all of the Shadow's agents is just, that's a really clever idea, and something that Gibson. Hey, I got to write 3 novels this week. Bam, ba, bam, bam, ba, bam, bam, and he's just knocking them out.
The Shadow knows.
And when we talk about the literary roots of RPGs, I have a picture. I shared it on Facebook a few years ago, but there's a wonderful picture out there of Earl Stanley Gardner's standing next to an entire stack of all of his published work, and it's like 20 feet tall. It's ridiculous, but Gardner, has this towering amount of material. Perry Mason and some of the best mysteries. If you want your players to think, if you want your players to really to put them back on their heel and force them to get out of their let's play murder hobos and kill everything, a really great locked room mystery or a really great solvable crime will really slow the pace of a game down and force them to stretch muscles they don't often use. Our Monday night game has a couple of murder hobos in it, and we all joke about it, right? But at some point, somebody's going to throw them a curve. It might be in the upcoming spy game, but there's always room to sort of throw your players in directions they don't expect, right? So he's back.
He's here. He's gone. He's here. He's gone.
He goes.
Yeah,
He
I got a
comes,
bad
he
connection
goes.
here at the condo. Not the best internet here, sadly. Are we going to talk about the Dagger?
Yeah, let's talk about Daggerheart. Daggerheart.
Daggerheart.
You guys talk about it while I try not to fade out.
I will fade. Actually, Mike, I'm gonna mute you.
I'm muting myself. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So Dan Masters, Professor DM, had the Critical Role guys on his show, like an exclusive interview, and I will say flat out, I haven't watched it yet. I've only seen the reactions online, and apparently, the Critical Role team says they are not being paid by WotC to use D&D 2024 as their rule set. That they abandoned their own rules, Daggerheart, to stick with D&D, and that it was an easy decision. I know Dan personally. I believe he probably did a fine job with the interview. There's some certain questions that I would have followed that up with when they made that statement, which apparently really wasn't done, which is probably why we don't get certain people on this show, because we believe in follow-up questions. But yeah, I'm a little suspicious that WotC is not paying for it or giving some method of compensation. I'm trying to parse my words here. Jim, what is your?
Daggerheart has had some interesting permutations. That's the phrase I'll use, right?
Okay.
I think there's been a handshake deal about why. I mean, Daggerheart essentially uses the 5th edition core, correct?
I think so.
Sure.
I don't own it.
I'm number one. It benefits both parties, right? I think the Critical Role people don't want to reinvent the wheel, and it's really easy to simply work out an agreement where WotC gets to benefit from them using 5th edition, or maybe it's the newest, whatever, D&D Next or whatever we want to call it. Maybe it's you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. Where Daggerheart uses the engine of 5th edition ish, and WotC gets to say, hey, look what we did with Daggerheart. We could do that for you, and this gives WotC a stronger position because it allows WotC to link itself to important, lots of followers, important properties, and say, hey, let's work out an arrangement where no monies are exchanged, but we get the benefit of all the Daggerheart players being familiar with our system. So Daggerheart uses a custom system with a 2d12 mechanic, and the highest die determines hopes and fears, and no real initiative system. Okay, then what is the announcement over? I mean, if that's the case, why are they even talking about this out loud?
Daggerheart was supposed to be their pivot after the OGL scandal. But the fact that they're addressing, Dan got this interview because they needed to address the question that was being asked. Because everybody's been talking about it. What's the? Oh God, I can't remember his channel right now, but I've actually met the guy. It's another YouTuber who he was like, hey, I know how this works. He's the one that knew how much they charged for advertising because he had inquired, and he parsed the math. Now, is it mutually beneficial to both sides for them to stick with the current edition of D&D? For D&D, certainly. If they're trying to do this, I don't know, reinvigoration tour, forgiveness tour, the Mea Culpa tour, having a company like Critical Role supporting your new rule set is probably very important. It's like, well, why did Critical Role then walk away from WotC? If WotC is trying to build bridges with people that they screwed, and remember, the OGL fiasco was primarily about companies like Critical Role making money off WotC's IP and WotC wanting a cut. Yeah.
I mean, there's no evidence that Daggerheart hasn't been a failure by any shape or means. I mean, Daggerheart's done well. It's not like Daggerheart just sucks, and they're like, well, we better go back to 5e because Daggerheart.
I mean, here, let me look behind me. I don't have any role-playing games to play. I guess I better run out and get Daggerheart.
Yeah, we've all run out to get Daggerheart, by the way, folks. Now we have.
Come on.
But we're not the target audience, though, Jim. It's the target audience are Critical Role watchers and players. I mean, that's their target audience, not us.
It was made more for storytelling, I would guess.
Yeah, I think trying to assign a negative side to WotC doing anything with this is I think short-sighted. I think everybody should be able to play in the space and play nice.
Yes.
And I think WotC, I think our Mr. Ayub is trying to play nice with people. We've talked about this over the last couple of months that he certainly seems being trying to rebuild bridges. Perkins and what's his name are gone, and there seems to have been one giant collective sigh of relief once the two of them left. Their edition,
role, by the way, aren't they?
I'm sorry?
Aren't they at Critical Role?
Well, good for them. But WotC seems to be, we wish you all the best. Take care. So long. Farewell. Goodbye. And the door seems to have been bolted, chained, and has a sign on it that says "Beware of the leopard." So I don't think they're going back anytime soon. I'd be very surprised. It's Perkins and what's his name?
Crawford.
Yeah, Crawford.
Yeah. So those two, they're gone, and there seems to be I think WotC's I think there's some PTSD. I think people are coming out of the shell like, ah. So if they get it and they want to play nice with others, let's applaud that and say that's great. And I'm glad you're playing well with others and move on. Again, Daggerheart, I'm not in there. I'm not in the 8 hours a day on YouTube watching Critical Role episodes. I'm sorry to say this. I don't have the time. If it hits and lands with those people and so on and so forth, that's great. But we all know, right? Like Critical Role grew and grew and grew and grew and hit a plateau at some point, and then it's back down. And that is the natural cycle of things. You know, I don't know when that plateau occurred, if it occurred, if it's going to occur. I don't know. They know. Oh, believe me, Critical Role knows.
I'm there on top of that. Yep.
Right. But they know as soon as their viewership starts to dip and once that decline starts, there is no correction. There is no like they can start throwing everything but the kitchen sink at it to try to get the problem to go away. But eventually it's not the hot thing anymore. It's just not going to be the hot thing anymore because it will be replaced by a newer, hotter thing. And that's the cycle of life. So I wish them all the best, but you know, this is why your favorite band from the 80s that filled an arena is now playing a casino near you. And that terrible cycle of rise and peak and fall, that plays out in our lifetimes over and over and over again.
Don't you diss on Journey, dude.
Come on. Like Journey is an interesting, like Journey's a very interesting examination of the collapse of a band, right? And come on, we all saw the documentary or whatever about the guy from the Philippines that they hired to be their lead singer, who sounded exactly like Steve Perry. But that didn't work out. You know, for whatever reason, that sort of blew apart. You know, Styx. My favorite is Tommy Shaw had the greatest line on the collapse of Styx. You know, that Dennis DeYoung is the one that dragged them kicking and screaming to do Kilroy Was Here, and we're gonna make a rock opera, and we're gonna have this elaborate stage show, and we're gonna go out on tour with this, and everybody's gonna just eat this up because we did Paradise Theater and that was a huge album and this is going to be bigger. And not only was it a bomb, B, they lost money and they lost millions of dollars on this. But Tommy Shaw's great note, he was on VH1 talking about this and he said, I'm standing on stage singing about robots and I couldn't figure out why on God's green earth I was standing on stage singing about robots. And that's when I knew we were done. And again, like poof, you know, where is Styx now?
And by the way, saw Styx in concert twice, Paradise Theater, and then an early one. They put on a really good show. That they were a great 80s rock band.
And come on, right? There's all these great rock bands and so on. But again, you claw your way to Guns N' Roses, right? I can remember the day I saw the picture of Axl, where somebody had snapped a picture of Axl live at a show where, I mean, I hate to say it, it was Fat Axl, and God love his heart, you know, like everybody had left the band except Axl. Axl still had the band. And they had gone out on the road, and that was when they had Buckethead. Do you remember the guy who wore the KFC bucket on his head?
Oh, boy.
That guy. Yep. So that was the tour, and somebody took a picture of Axl from like the 5th or 6th row, where Axl fat and sweaty and huffing, and they took the picture and shared it, and some genius on the internet labeled the picture "Sweet Pie O' Mine." And Axl got so angry, he got his lawyer involved, right? But if you do a search on Axl and Sweet Pie O' Mine, oh my God, right? It's hysterical. But he was furious, and
If you're mad, lose a few pounds, Chubby. I mean, you're on stage. Come on, man. You
Yeah,
got the
you-
money
you got-
to get a dietitian. You know, get an exercise
Yes.
program.
Yes. Oh, it was just
God, it
awful
was-
and so bad. So bad. Yeah, here's the guy that used to be like
So we
scrawny and now he is not. He is
Oh,
not.
man,
But
that
a
is-
search of sweet pie of mine will bring you acres of material on this, and it's painful. It's all terrible.
does this mean we're going to see Fat Matt Mercer someday? Will we see Fat Matt Mercer?
Well, so that raises a really good point.
Oh,
I saw I'll just say it. So I saw an interview with Monty Cook the other day, and I was struck. Now I am a middle-aged older dude, but Monty looked awful. Like Monty looked like he has been dealing with some health problems, and I did a double take because honest to God, I thought it was like somebody from the 1970s era of TSR, not somebody from the 90s 2000s era. And when I saw Monty in the interview, I did a double check and was just like, "What the hell?"
He may be having health
has
problems.
anybody has that ever shown up in the week of Gaming Stupid? Green Ronin is charging $15 for the PDF and playtest rules for Mutants and Masterminds 4th edition.
Well, it's showing up now.
Well, here we are, right? They charge what they feel they can charge, and they charge what they feel they can get. Yep. And it's been a week or two since we've had an update on the Great Diamond lawsuit fiascos, but I don't know, for $15, I don't know what you get for $15, but if they feel that the PDF is worth, is it a 350-page PDF? I don't know.
But it's a playtest. I mean, when they were playtesting, Pathfinder, I think they gave you a physical softcover printed book for like $10 during the beta testing.
So there's a raging discussion about fat rock stars in the chat. So let me just say this real quick. Number one, the names that are being bandied about are guys who were starving and living in apartments with 4 other dudes, usually the whole band, and they were all living on Twinkies and heroin. And so when they were a big deal and they were scrawny and thin in their early 20s, when they had the metabolisms of hummingbirds, yeah, they were skinny. But once you're over 28, I don't know how to tell this to the young kids in the audience, but once you're past 28, your metabolism slows down and then it gets grim.
Yeah.
But the other is,
you can know candy bars and beer.
Yeah, you can't live on, yes. And so when Axel went back out on the road, he had been living on royalties and hadn't really been taking care of himself. Now, somebody said he saw him in 2016, and then again, after Sweet Pie O' Mine came out, believe me, Axel absolutely knew he had a problem. Marilyn Manson, same thing, right? All these guys are in their 50s. All these guys are in their 50s/60s. And you know what? If you've led the rock and roll lifestyle, you have the rock and roll body. Mick Mars, Jesus, this guy has just, the angel of death and Mick circle each other every day. I don't think he died. He didn't die, did he? Anyway. So that brings me. Let's not speak of the late 80s and early 90s metal without mentioning Sam Kinison.
Oh my God! All right.
I think it's very interesting that we lost Sam Kinison. It's terribly unfortunate that we lost Sam Kinison as early as we did. How is it that Andrew Dice Clay survived, but we lost Sam Kinison? Because if none of you have watched the Ford Fairlane Andrew Dice Clay movie lately, you gotta watch it every once in a while just to remind you what that brief period was like. It's a painful movie, but when you watch Sam Kinison, there is an inner rage that fuels that man's humor. The clip that I still can't believe. Have you guys seen the clip where he gets a guy in the audience who calls his ex, who's now, I think, remarried or engaged, and he calls her during the middle of the show and puts, like holds the microphone up to the headset, and he's like, "Hi, is this Debbie? Hi, Debbie, this is Sam Kinison." And I can't repeat anything of what happened when he eventually explodes. But yes, he died in a horrific car wreck. It was truly, truly a terrible car wreck. And Kinison was one of those guys, he'd been a preacher. He had a really, really hard time. He pushed the bounds of comedy in ways that you just can't believe. But my God, right? You watch these old clips of Sam Kinison, and then you watch Andrew Dice Clay, and you think the universe is not fair, right? I can't even imagine what folly Sam Kinison would have had with the last 30 years of our culture. And where is Andrew Dice Clay? Yeah, I got nothing. And that's
Muffet sat on it. Oh, it's like,
yes, right. And again, we all knew those guys that tried to look like him. They had the big leather jackets, they had the pompadour. And when you watch the Ford Fairlane movie, you know before they even finished making the movie, he was done. Like his career was pretty much already over at that point. It wasn't even 2 years. It was like a year, maybe 18 months. And then he was gone. And it's just,
well, Blue DM's right. Dice Clay was a character. He was in a MASH episode.
yes,
the actor, and so
yes,
Dice Clay was a character he played,
yes.
and so he's done other things too. He's done bit parts here and there, but yes, Sam Kinison was Sam Kinison.
Yeah.
That was him.
That dude was angry. He was angry, and everything made him angry. Like he was a crotchety old man at 30. And it was inspiring in some ways, right? Because all the stuff that he would get angry about, I can relate to, right? You watch this stuff. We all have, I have the demonic ex. Everybody has a demonic ex. I'm somebody's demonic ex, right? Like all these little moments. But I watched that clip from where he calls this guy's ex-girlfriend. And even though you know where it's going, you know that this is going to end with him screaming into the phone and screaming something unbelievably foul that he shouldn't utter out loud, but he's still going to do it anyway because this poor guy suffered. I have no idea how they picked the guy in the audience. I have no idea how they vetted it or whatever, but they did. And the great uncomfortable moment of it as it's building and building and building, you just know Kinison's going to go off and it's going to be Krakatoa. And when it does, it delivers on every note. It just absolutely delivers on every note. It's just great. So, yeah. Oh, dude, the dude didn't have demons. He had an entire chorus. He had the Charlie Daniels Band "Devil Went Down to Georgia" chorus of demons behind him.
Yeah.
Ugh.
He had that great scene in Rodney Dangerfield.
I was thinking about
that.
Oh, it was such a great scene. He's a history professor.
Yeah, for every Eddie Murphy that becomes like an unbelievable superstar, there's an entire percolating crop. I liked Norm Macdonald. I thought Norm Macdonald absolutely, he was a brutally honest comedian. And to that point, there's a great clip, for whatever reason, Jerry Seinfeld was driving people around in cars and having conversations with him. And I never really got the hook of it, but I watched the Norm Macdonald episode. And, Macdonald had this just ruthless, honest streak to him. And at one point, somebody says something, at some point, Jerry Seinfeld says something like they're talking about Cosby and isn't it just a shame, here his career is over and he's blah, 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 blah. And Norm Macdonald goes, well, that isn't the worst part of the whole Cosby affair. And Seinfeld doesn't see it coming and goes, really? And he goes, no, I thought it was the raping of the women that was the worst thing about Cosby. And
Oh.
and it hits you, right? And Norm's not wrong.
Nope.
And number two, it's this just ruthless, honest observation by McDonald that when Phil Hardman died, McDonald really got sideways with the people at SNL and ended up being off SNL, and eventually it all sorted itself out, and everybody said they apologized and everybody was okay with it. But McDonald was, again, that really ruthless guy, and he understood that sometimes with humor you have to lean way over the edge and land them, and absolutely land them, because that's what humor is for. It takes tragedy and it makes it palatable in a way that your brain can process it. So.
The best comedians are the ones that upset norms, right? I mean, you can be a comedian and not do that, but the best ones are the ones that kick that.
Don't pull punches. Land the hits ruthlessly, one after another, because that's the role of the jester. That's the role of the jester. The jester is there to make sure that the hubris and the ego, and by the way, I have the power to destroy you. Buddy, you don't have the power to destroy like a roll of toilet paper. Give me a break.
I'm a David Spade fan. Now, he's really calmed down the last decade or so, but he made his bones going on Saturday Night Live and insulting comedians. And there's a
yes,
occasion when he said some bad things about Eddie.
Yes, he did. Yes, there was no love lost with some of those guys. There really wasn't. Yes. And it's funny because my one of the local record stores that I go to, every once in a while they'll get a raft of comedy albums in, right? And I had George Carlin's A Place for My Stuff, and I had to hide it from my grandparents so they didn't know I had a place for my stuff. I had a neighbor who had all of the Red Fox comedy albums. And you talk about something that was literally set the world on fire material from the 60s. Oh my God, those Red Fox comedy albums, like he snuck them out of his parents' house one at a time so that we could listen to them. And I had never heard anything like it, right? You thought Carlin was dirty with the 7 words you could never say on television. Red Fox was like, kid, hold my beer and light my cigarette and get the fuck out of my way. And you're just, holy smokes.
Fox was filthy. He was
fantastic. But again, right, just an old man that didn't care, right? Fueled by all this stuff.
Like Don Rickles. I mean, he was one of my favorites. I mean,
yes,
right in your face. I was like, and as a preteen, I was like, you can have that attitude and not get smacked. Oh, damn.
So
look at one real quick.
Yeah.
Go to YouTube. Don Rickles and Denzel Washington were on the Tonight Show. Look it up.
Oh, I saw that clip. Oh my God, it's hilarious.
Unbelievable. Because Denzel loves Don, and Don just you just have to watch it. Can't even explain it. It's amazing.
So my local library is a very interesting microcosm of the universe, because I rent a lot of I borrow a lot of movies and television out of the library. It's stuff I'm never going to buy, never want to buy, but come on. In first grade, I had the Adam 12 lunchbox, but I was too young to remember Adam 12. So like over the course of the summer, I watched a whole lot of Adam 12 and realized how good the show was. But what is interesting is the library. The library buys things the way you would expect a public library to buy. So if it's a big best-selling movie, they get multiple copies so that there isn't 20 people waiting to check something.
Right.
And so a lot of the Marvel movies from 10 years ago, there's multiple copies, right? So Infinity War, etc., Avengers, Infinity War, and so on and so forth. There's like 2 or 3 copies. There's like a couple of DVD copies and a Blu-ray copy and sometimes a 4K copy. And I see all this, I sort of as I'm poking around the stacks and looking for things, I'm always interested to see new arrivals, right? So like Thunderbolts showed up at my library, and they got like 2 Blu-ray, a 4K, and 1 DVD, right? So they've sort of got the bases covered, but they didn't buy heavy stuff that's really popular. There'll be 2 or 3 versions. There'll be 2 or 3 copies of each kind of format. But Star Trek, Star Wars, Star Trek, and so on, there are always multiple copies of whatever the movies are. The TV show, there's like for the original Star Trek show, there's DVD, there's also Blu-ray. Like they've got all the bases covered. Any show you can think of, they've got pretty much multiple formats and so on. But the reason I'm laughing is because today I noticed they have one pitiful copy of the Section 31 movie. One copy on Blu-ray. And I sort of chuckled and I looked in the card catalog just to see. And yes, that's it. It's the only copy. They didn't order a DVD copy. They didn't order 4K. They ordered one copy, and that's it. And there's no wait to check it out. There's not a waiting list. You're not going to fight for it. And I thought that was really kind of like, okay, I had heard how bad it was. I tried to watch it, and I couldn't get through the first 20 minutes. I had to turn it off. It was so bad. And I thought Michelle Yeoh deserves so much better. And maybe it wasn't me. Maybe it was just me. Maybe other people, maybe the big Trekkies love this and so on.
No, it's terrible. It's fucking awful.
Unbelievably awful.
I didn't even bother trying to watch it.
It is horrific. Like even in the moments where you're like the mirror universe, there's a scene where they transport down an entire regiment. And it's cool to see how it happens, right? Boom, 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 boom. The lines of people just appear. Boom, 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 boom. But as cool as that brief moment is, you have to wade through 15 solid minutes of the worst Star Trek I think I've ever seen. And it's egregious. It's absolutely egregious. So
I read a review that said it was made by somebody who doesn't understand and doesn't like Star Trek.
Yes, I would agree with that, right? And the last episode of Strange New Worlds of season 3, the very last episode of Strange New Worlds is picture perfect. It gets rid of a troublesome character. It establishes Kirk and Spock in a way that's just genius. I thought it was absolutely Star Trek done right. It's Strange New Worlds continues to be a great Star Trek show. There was not as much singing and dancing this year, but you know. And no Muppets, no puppets, which everybody was terrified by because there was that brief trailer or something where they showed you Pike as a puppet, like a Jim Henson puppet, and everybody was afraid this meant that there was going to be some puppet episode, and that never came to be. So I was greatly relieved by that.
All right.
Yeah, but we got to see the Spock's brain of Strange New Worlds, which is everybody becomes a Vulcan episode, which was not good.
God.
It was not good.
Oh, it was awful. I mean, I still can't believe they actually even put Section 31 out there. Yeah. Have either of you listened to the audio, the Khan Noonien Singh audio thing that they've done?
What?
I've heard about it, but I haven't bothered to listen to it.
No. Blue says that Section 31 was supposed to be a series, but they jammed it into a single movie because Yo had another project she was working on.
Oh yeah, the Academy Award winner movie that she did. Yeah. Well, we dodged a bullet, kids. I think we dodged a bullet by not having a series.
Oh God.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I wouldn't even want to think about it. So
I mean, it's Star Trek Discovery is a series that I hate watched. It's like I'm watching it. It's like I don't want to watch more.
Oh my God!
But I feel like I have to watch.
It's terrible too.
Because it should turn good at some point. And then after the first season, I went, "What the hell just happened?" I got it. It has to get better, right? And it didn't.
I did the same thing. I dipped out after season 1.
I just love that you're torturing yourself like that character from the Dan Brown book that's got the cinch around his leg and he tightens it for penance and he's bleeding. That's you in Star Trek Discovery.
I made it my first season. Hey, folks, I'll admit this. I watched it on my phone using an app because I didn't have access. But then season 2 and 3, I was subscribed, and I was like, and then after the 3rd season, I was like, that's it. I can't. I don't care.
What? Why do you hate yourself?
Well, that's the whole thing.
Eric? Why?
And that's why it took me forever to even watch Strange New Worlds, because I was like, they don't. And then I started watching it, and Strange New Worlds, season 1 was, and that's as far as I got. I finished season 1 with the ups and downs of it's a new series. It's going to hit its marks. It's going to miss its marks. But it didn't. I'll watch season 2 at some point. It won't be hate watching. It'll be. I will. It won't be the Orville. Sadly, the Orville was modern Star Trek done well, in my opinion.
It was the best Star Trek that wasn't actually Star Trek. Yes, Orville was really good.
So we shall see.
I've enjoyed season 3 Discovery Strange New Worlds.
No,
well,
I think
that's a confession.
There's 2 standout episodes of the season, and if you haven't watched them, I don't want to spoil it, but the last episode's really pretty good, and the other one, both of them are interestingly Kirk-centric, and that's what it should be, right? Because the whole point of the show is that they're establishing the ground, they're laying the groundwork for what comes with Kirk and the Enterprise, but the other, not the last episode of the season, but the one where Kirk and his ship are ambushed by the gigantic spaceship that literally destroys a planet they're surveying and does this grievous amount of damage, and the Enterprise shows up and again, I don't want to spoil the ending of that show. The last 10 minutes of that episode are perfect and a gut punch and a great sort of reality check, and it goes a long way to explaining Kirk and how Kirk grows. And I have to give him full credit, the guy that they've got playing Kirk, he's got just enough Shatnerian qualities where you can sort of see it.
Yeah,
but he's not. Yeah. And okay, so now there's people going Lower Decks. I love Lower Decks. Titmouse did Lower Decks. Titmouse did a hell of a job on 5 seasons of Lower Decks. The crossover episode from season 2 with of Strange New Worlds with the 2 characters from Upper Decks is genius. I'm sorry, but the Mistress of the Winter Constellations is still the best running gag in a Star Trek show ever. And when you finally get to find out what the Mistress of the Winter Constellations is about, it pays off. And if you haven't watched Upper Decks, you got to watch Upper Decks. It's great.
So I'm going to ask you guys a question. I haven't seen it yet. I have Disney.
What is that?
Alien Earth.
Oh yeah. So I haven't watched it because I'm going to just wait till it's done, and then I'll putter through it. But I have a friend who's a gigantic Aliens fan, huge. Right? I thought the first one was a great scary movie. I thought the second one was a perfect sequel because it wasn't a scary movie; it was an action movie, and it was really, really well done. I think Aliens holds up. We used to use Aliens as a way of teaching leadership, and the difference between Gorman and Ripley is pretty night and day. But what I have heard, and my friend sort of sussed this out, he said episode 1, amazing. Episode 2, Episode 3, pretty good. And that's the last of the reviews I heard. Now he did say that Timothy Oliphant is really, really, really good, and he's always really, really, really good. So that's hopeful.
Yeah.
But how do you put the xenomorphs on Earth and we don't just end up done? I don't, if it doesn't end that way, then I'm going to be really sort of. So.
Well, it's a prequel, right? I mean, it happened
Is it?
before.
Yeah, it's a prequel.
A lot of the other movies.
Oh, I
think
didn't
it's a
know that.
prequel. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I've just heard so many. I've heard it sucks. I've heard it's great.
I watched the
I don't
first
know. I'm gonna
episode.
have to
I
watch it
was
now.
pleasantly surprised, but I haven't gone back to watch the rest.
Well, I'll have to watch it myself.
But I've heard the same about episode 2, which is why I wasn't.
It's great. I'm hearing
Yeah,
it sucks.
it seems to have. It's the best I can say is from what I've heard. If you suspend your disbelief, it's a more enjoyable ride. But you're there for the ride, not the story.
You kind of do that with a lot of the
Yeah.
Aliens sequels. Alien Prometheus reminds me. That's Alien Prometheus. You had to suspend a lot of belief to suspend that one for Alien Prometheus.
So,
Yeah.
Well, I'll probably have to
Yeah,
fire
I
it up
mean,
and watch it then, just to see.
when I get back from
see what I
ShireCon,
think,
I
yeah.
got a bunch of things I gotta watch. I got the games from Gary's Basement Blu-ray.
Mhm.
The Dreams in Gary's Basement. Sorry, I got the Blu-ray
Mhm.
and this 6 discs in the Blu-ray. I was like, holy crap! Well, they got
Jeez.
Tim Kask, Frank Metzner. They each get their own disc. Flint Dilley, Mike Carr, and John Peterson. I think John Peterson gets a. There's going to be a lot of viewing when I return from ShireCon. A lot of viewing, but that will mean I have to reset. I guess reconnect my PlayStation because I haven't used it in a while. It should still work, right? As an aside, folks, for those watching, if you go, YouTube allows for posts, so you can post on your channel. So if you go to the channel, you go to the posts. I have been doing some mundane magic items. There is a general table of 12 that's free to everybody. If you're a member, I have class tables for mundane magic. It's something I'm going to be trying to do on a fairly regular basis, both on the free side and for the members. So just a reminder that it's there. Mike, I don't think you're going to be doing your music because you can't hold up any CDs.
Okay, I got it covered. Hold on.
I don't have it, and I left out of town. I will have to go to a movie with Jim because I think I have the same 5 CDs.
There you go. The road trip CDs.
I don't believe anything new has hit the CD player. And I was listening to Pandora the whole way here. I can talk about my 5 favorite Pandora.
Yeah, that's not quite the same excitement.
As
I figure tomorrow when I drive to ShireCon, I'll just turn on one of Joe the Lawyer's YouTube videos. Figure it's about a 2.5 hour drive, so I'll get there with the video still playing.
You don't have to answer this question, but is characters gone or not?
I don't know.
You don't have to answer. Character, the characters, the once.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, probably. We're
all right.
For personal reasons we're on hiatus. So, but I'll be on DM Bloodworks channel on Sunday night at 7 p.m. We're gonna do a ShireCon recap. Cool. So it's probably gonna be the 2 of us, maybe Joe Block, Joe the Lawyer, and whoever else he can scrounge up. So, by the way, folks, no live stream. Well, I shouldn't say no live stream. I may have nobody to hang with, so maybe I will do a live stream tomorrow from the Airbnb. We'll see.
All right.
In the room, lonely with a bottle.
I'm gonna buy wine.
That's gonna be.
So I have 2 movies to talk about this week. Since Mike's in a car, I got 2 movies to talk about this week, and both of them are sort of fun. So the first one is a movie you didn't hear of, and that's okay. But it's a movie called Sorcerer.
Why does that sound familiar?
And so
Yes.
Sorcerer is a movie about an American in South America, Central America, who he's down on his luck and he gets hired. He and a bunch of other ne'er-do-wells in a village get hired to drive
Roy Schneider, right? Yeah.
to drive trucks filled with nitroglycerin through the worst roads imaginable to deliver it to a project.
Wow.
And it's well regarded. It's a really I haven't seen it in 20 years, but it was a hair-raising, nervous, sweaty wreck kind of movie. But it made the mistake of coming out the same weekend in 1977 as Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody saw this movie. And it languished forever. And so Sorcerer is now out. It's a nice new version of Sorcerer. And if you want a good sort of oh God, are they gonna? Yeah, it's that kind of movie, and it's just great. And it's Roy Scheider. You know, he was still picking projects after Jaws, so he could do whatever he wanted. This is between, I believe, Jaws 2 and Jaws 3, the 3D Jaws movie. So it's a very, very solid movie. But that's not the home run of the day. No, the home run of the day from 1973 and 1974, The Three Musketeers and The Four Musketeers.
Delicious.
Now, this is the legendary production of The Three Musketeers and Four Musketeers. So what you really need to know is that the Salkinds, Ilya and so on, that were later responsible for Superman, they let Richard Lester go loose in Spain with a budget and a whole bunch of great stars. And Oliver Reed is in this. And, what's his name plays D'Artagnan? It's Raquel Welch, Faye Dunaway, Charlton Heston, Michael York as D'Artagnan, Oliver Reed, Frank Finley, Richard Chamberlain. But the great part of this is they shot tons and tons of footage. And the script is by none other than the guy who wrote all the wonderful Flashman books. I'm spacing out. It's a staggering accomplishment. The script is filled with all these wonderful little moments. Let's see. It's George MacDonald Fraser. Mm-hmm. So like there's a scene in a pub where there's always in this movie, there's like a half a dozen things going on behind the main characters. And Fraser wrote all of that into the script. Like all of that is in the original shooting script. But what makes this a really famous little landmarky bit is not only is it a great adaptation of the material, but the contracted actors, all the actors and actresses were contracted for one movie. And what the Salkinds decided to do is split it into two movies, but only pay the actors and actors for one movie.
Uh-huh.
And so the first movie comes out, and then they're like, but wait, next year we'll be releasing part 2. And all of the actors and actresses are like, what? And so a series of lawsuits ensue. Mm-hmm. And this is why now there's a clause that, you know, if you've contracted for one movie, there won't be two, and so on and so forth. But of all the adaptations of the 3/4 Musketeers, this is the most joyous one. And that's all because of George MacDonald Fraser's script. He really does captures a lot of the heart of the Dumas novels. And in particular, Oliver Reed, who is really and truly one of the most legendary drunks ever. Oliver Reed plays the relationship with Lady de Winter perfectly. That there is love and that there is passion and there is all the things that he remembers. But in the end, she's still got to go to the headsman. And there is no getting out of this. And when that moment really arrives in the Four Musketeers, D'Artagnan's great love. I mean, he killed Raquel Welch. She killed Raquel Welch. She's got to die. But this is such a great, fun movie. Yeah, Oliver Reed. Yes, Oliver Reed died during Gladiator, and God, they even had it in the contract that he couldn't go out drinking, and he, got into a drinking contest with a bunch of sailors.
Good job.
And went out that way. The book you want to read, if you're interested in that sort of really great part of Hollywood and who the really epic legendary drunks are, hold on. There's only one book to read. Let me see what this is. Sorry. I got to get the name right. Go ahead.
But by the way, a significant death this week. One of my first movie crushes of all time.
Oh, I know, it's tragic.
Away. Once Upon a Time in the West. I saw that when I was a kid, and I wanted to marry her, and I was probably 10 years old, but I was like, yeah, that's who I want to marry. She was absolutely gorgeous.
I was talking about the Hammer movies. All the great Hammer horror movies. There are some of the most heart-stopping actresses in these that you're watching the movie and you just aren't prepared for what suddenly shows up on screen. And she was one of those. She was absolutely one of those just breathtaking. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough when you see people like that go. It just hurts. I'm trying to find this wonderful book.
Yeah, she was. I think I saw it when I was in 6th grade or 7th grade, and she was. That's all we could talk about the next day after it was on broadcast TV. Was, man, that Claudia Cardinal. Wow,
yeah,
yummy.
She could set things on fire standing across the room.
But she was in a lot of stuff. She's in 8.5. She's in a bunch of things I didn't see till later on. But yeah, Once Upon a Time in the West, she's an amazing actress in that. She does a great job.
It's an excellent movie. It's a really good Western.
That's my favorite Western of all time, too. Yeah, it's my favorite Western.
Don sent me the link for the Sam Kinison clip. So,
okay.
So it's in the chat, folks. So when we wrapped up, that's your homework for next week. Okay, we're gonna ask you'll be quizzed on it.
Oh, don't quiz him on it. I'll find out the name of that book. But there's a wonderful book that's about all of the legendary drunks of Hollywood, and it has the great Lee Marvin story. And this is a good note to end the show on.
Oh, yes.
So I think it's Elia Kazan and his wife went to dinner with Lee Marvin. I might be getting this wrong, but a director and his wife went to dinner with Lee Marvin, and Lee Marvin is pounding at the table, just drink after drink after drink after drink. And when they're done with dinner, they leave the restaurant, and Lee Marvin should not be behind the wheel of a car. And so the director and his wife say, Lee, you can't drive. Let us give you a ride home. We'll come get you in the morning and we'll bring you back and get your car. And Lee Marvin just explodes. And he's not doing that. And by God, in no way, shape, or form is he going to get in the car. And so instead, Lee Marvin crawls on top of the car and holds onto the luggage rack like a station wagon. And so the director and his wife decide to drive home with Lee Marvin on the roof of the car. And Lee Marvin is swearing and hitting the roof of the car and the whole 9 yards as they're driving. And they're doing like 10 miles an hour to get home. And they get pulled over by a cop. And the cop pulls them over and gets out and walks up. And Lee Marvin is on top of the car, holding onto the sides of the roof and glaring at the police officer. And the cop leans over, the guy's got his window down. And the first words the cop says are, do you know that you have Lee Marvin on the top of your car?
Oh, great.
And it's just such a great, and this book is filled with these kinds of stories, right? Oliver Reed and all the rest.
Classic.
And from my favorite year, Peter O'Toole.
Oh, Peter O'Toole, yeah.
Jesus.
Richard Burton was a great drunk too.
Yes.
Richard Burton was a drinker
Yes,
too.
Richard Burton.
Yeah.
And so many shenanigans between he and Liz Taylor. At one point, they were in hotels opposite of each other.
Yeah.
And so this tells you he had too much money. Burton had contractors build a bridge over the street from one hotel to the other so that they could go back and forth and see each other. And they wouldn't have to be on the street level with the paparazzi.
Oh, wow.
God, it's just great stuff. So I'll get the name of that book and have it.
Weird fact, Eric and I do that at conventions also. We have a bridge over there.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Folks, if you're going to be at ShireCon, search me out. I'm getting out in the area tomorrow, but I'll be at ShireCon Friday and Saturday. And other than that,
thank you for putting up with my technical difficulties. We'll be back to normal next week.
They're used to it. They're used to it by now.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, guys. This is vacation, Mike. This is what you get. Sorry.
That is fine. Other than that, like I said, free stuff. If you go to the postings here on YouTube, so go to the channel, go to posts, and other than that, we'll see you next week. Maybe you're live tomorrow. We'll see how my trip works out. All right, folks. Good night.